You know, sometimes the biggest, most incredible stories about kingdoms and nations are kind of hidden in plain sight, maybe just inside the pages of a single book. And today, we're going to dive into one of those, a political autobiography that tells the absolutely gripping tale of a kingdom's final chapter.
Okay, so what we're looking at today is Inside Balochistan. It's the personal story of His Highness Mir Ahmed Yar Khan Baloch, who was the very last sovereign ruler of the state of Kalat. This is his side of the story, told in his own words. Now, take a look at this title page. You see his name, right? And his formal royal title, Khane Baloch. But check out the two little words printed right underneath that. They basically foreshadow this entire incredible story. Ex-ruler. I mean, how does a sovereign Khan, a king of his people, become an ex-ruler? Well, this book is his answer. It's his attempt to set the historical record straight from his very unique point of view. Let's see what he has to say. All right, so let's set the scene. Our story really kicks off at this huge turning point in history, the moment the British are about to leave the Indian subcontinent. Our main character is the Khan, and his kingdom is the state of Kalat, which you know today as Balochistan. And for him, this job was so much more than just politics. And this one line from his dedication page really tells you everything you need to know about his mindset. It doesn't mention power or treaties or anything like that. It's just this simple, powerful statement dedicated to the Baloches, my lifeblood. For the Khan, you just couldn't separate the story of his kingdom from the story of his people. They were one and the same. Look, to really get where the Khan is coming from with all his decisions, you've got to understand this deep, almost spiritual connection he felt to the land itself. We're not just talking about territory on a map. This was his ancestral homeland, a place he felt he was born to protect. I mean, listen to how he describes his homeland. It's almost poetry, right? For him, Balochistan wasn't just dirt and rocks. It was this living thing, connecting the past with the present. It was where he grew up, where he became a ruler. And we're not just talking about poetry here, right? This was a real, tangible place. When he's writing about snow-capped mountains with a scenic wildness untamed, he's thinking of actual places, like the famous Bolan Pass. This rugged, beautiful land was what he was trying to lead into the modern world. So when he took the throne back in 1933, he wasn't just some ruler who was going to sit back and let things happen. No way. His autobiography makes it super clear that he had this big, ambitious mission for his state and for his people. So you can see, he saw himself as a real modernizer. His goals were huge. Get his people out of poverty, set up a democratic parliament, get all these different tribes to see themselves as one people, and ultimately make sure Kalat had a secure place in the modern world. The man had a plan. But then, that plan ran headfirst into one of the biggest geopolitical shakeups of the 20th century, the partition of India in 1947. For the Khan, this was it. This was the moment to make his dream of a sovereign Kalat a reality. And in his book, he lays out what he saw as a rock-solid legal case for it. So, from his point of view, the road to independence was crystal clear, legally speaking. And he lays out his case, step by step. He points to the British cabinet mission, then to public statements by Pakistan's founder, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and in his mind, this was all confirmed at a big roundtable conference, which he says made it clear that once the British left, Kalat's full independence was back on the table. But the real linchpin, the cornerstone of his entire argument, was this thing called the Standstill Agreement, signed just a few days before partition. In his book, he holds this up as the ultimate proof, a formal legal document that he says recognized Kalat as an independent, sovereign state that would deal with the new nation of Pakistan as an equal. But just a little over 7 months after that declaration of independence, the whole dream just collapses. And this brings us right to the climax of his story, the unbelievable pressure and the chain of events that led the Khan to sign the papers to join Pakistan. The way he tells it, he was basically caught between a rock and a hard place. On one side, he had what he truly believed were solid legal agreements for independence and a duty to ask his people what they wanted. But on the other side, he describes just immense pressure. Personal advice from Jinnah, what he called mischievous propaganda on the radio creating panic, and the whole region just becoming more and more unstable. And then came the day it all ended, March 30th, 1948. On this day, Mir Ahmed Yar Khan Baloch signed the documents. He merged his state with Pakistan.
and the independent state of Kalat was no more.
So why? Why did he do it? Well, in his own words, he paints it as a choice he was forced to make under incredible duress. He writes that he felt he had absolutely no other option, that the survival of the brand new nation of Pakistan was on the line, forcing his hand to act against his own wishes for what he saw as a greater good.
But you might think the story ends there. But nope, it gets even more intense. For the Khan, signing those papers was not the end of his troubles. A decade later, things took a violent turn, and it's this final, dramatic chapter that really explains why he's an ex-ruler and why this autobiography became his final word on the matter. So, fast forward a decade to the morning of October 6th, 1958. He actually titles this chapter in his book, The Bloody Episode. He writes that he woke up to find his palace completely surrounded by the army. To him, it was a total shock, this unbelievable display of force against him. And his personal memory of that moment, it's just chilling. He describes the chaos, surrendering to the army, seeing his own men fall, and then just black. He says he shut his eyes in agony and woke up in a jail cell in Lahore. So, that was it. That was the final act. His authority, gone. The family treasury and all their weapons, seized. And he himself was thrown in jail. From that day on, he was no longer the Khan of Kalat. And this book, published years later, is his definitive, final attempt to have the last word. And that really leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? The Khan story is this powerful reminder that history is never simple. His autobiography is one version of the story, a deeply personal record that stands up and challenges the official narrative. And it really makes you think, whose stories do we choose to tell and whose get lost to time?